Trade and taxes on the agenda this morning. The U.S. and China agreeing to suspend most tariffs for 90 days. Meantime, in Washington, Republicans are set to unveil their tax bill tomorrow. Joining us now, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. Leader Scalise, thanks for coming on this morning. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to be back with you.
Anything that we don't know, we're not expecting? Is there a 37% top rate or 39.6 for $2.5 million to $5 million? Is that in there?
No, all the rates are going to stay the same, and that's really good news for the economy to get stability in the tax code. And we're looking to do it permanently, not just for another 10-year extension. There's going to be, of course, some of the things President Trump talked about, like no tax on tips. But you're going to see a continued pro-growth tax code and a prevention of any tax increases on anybody, which is going to bode really well, I think, for investment, economic growth, lowering inflation, lowering costs at the grocery store for families, all of the things that we want to get done.
I mean, I saw a tweet last week, or I guess it was a whatever. What do you call something on Truth Social?
A truth?
A truth. Well, that's giving it a little bit too much, I think, veracity to say that. But I think the president said something like there are some things being bandied about, and you know what it was. It was $2.5 million in income for single filers and $5 million for joint filers, and it was going to have a new tax bracket. He said, you know, people want this. I'm not crazy about it, but I'd sign off on it. He said. You're telling me that's not going to happen.
There was a lot of pushback from our members. You know, a lot of us that want to ensure that nobody gets a tax increase, because at the end of the day, what was so successful about what we did in 2017 with President Trump's tax cuts is that we lowered tax rates for everybody. And by the way, not only did everybody do better, all income groups did better, but it was the lower and middle income groups that did the best when you see true economic growth and true reinvestment in America. And so why would you want to raise taxes on anybody? That's what the Democrats do. And by the way, when you go look in these states where they go after the wealthy, hey, look at New York. They've got a billionaires tax. Well, guess who's leaving New York? All the billionaires. And they're moving to places like Florida and Texas and Tennessee that have zero income tax. And so, you know, same thing in California. They go after their wealthy people. They try to play class warfare. And then those people just say, OK, if you don't like me, then I'll leave and go somewhere where I'm liked.
The reason that they weren't permanent in 2017 was because of the deficit implications. So everybody was worried about if you extend them permanently, just leave it the way it is, extend it permanently, that is going to add to the deficit significantly. That's before you add in all the other things you just mentioned that the president wants. So, I mean, it just begs the question. Maybe you're going to tell me that the growth of the economy is going to, you know, make the CBO estimates look silly, and maybe that's true. Maybe it does pretty well. Maybe it does better. But you're still adding a lot of stuff that's not getting paid for anywhere, unless you do something with Medicaid. You're going to do something with Medicaid?
Of course, it's getting paid for, and that's, you know, again, you go back and look at 2017, we took in more revenue the next year after we cut taxes than what we took in the history of the country. This year,
still big deficits. Still big deficits.
This year, well, that's because of some of the other programs that are untouched. Medicare and Social Security, we all know, have cyclical problems. And under Biden's own Medicare actuaries, those programs are in trouble. We need to save those programs from bankruptcy. But you can't touch that in budget reconciliation. So, you know, for somebody to try to blame deficit or debt on budget reconciliation when you can't even have an impact on those programs, it's disingenuous. Let's talk about what we're doing with this bill as it relates to the overall picture of the budget. You know, this bill is being paid for in a number of ways. One, you do actual savings. You get things like, you know, stopping illegals from being on some of these programs, putting work requirements into Medicaid, putting work requirements into SNAP, the food stamp program. That yields big savings for taxpayers.
So that's going to happen.
And by the way, it's going to get people back in the workforce. This is something these programs are safety net programs. They are not designed for somebody, you know, the 35-year-old sitting in his mom's basement playing video games, turning down work. That is not what a social safety net program is. It's to help disabled people, pregnant women, people on hard times. That's what we're going to focus these programs back on. And it's going to make the programs work better, but it will give big savings to the taxpayer.
Hey, Leader, one of the big sort of controversial tax questions that we talk about at this table a lot is carried interest for private equity, venture capital folks who effectively manage money for big pension funds, and whether they should be granted a better rate, if you will, than others. Where do you land on that?
I don't want to see that change. I don't want to see, us going after any particular group like that. But let's let the bill come out and see where they ultimately decide. This was one of the final decisions that a lot of members went back and forth on. And look, each one of these are tough decisions. Some are easier decisions than others. Work requirements are very widely supported. Carried interest, higher top rate. There was a lot of pushback on some of those.
Leader, can you just, for those who are watching and want to understand it, can you explain your rationale for why somebody who manages other people's money should get a better tax rate effectively than somebody else who works on the equivalent of a commission or fee-oriented business that relies on sort of something happening, which is similar to private equity or venture capital, meaning they get a bonus effectively when in success, but there's lots of people who are real estate agents, all sorts of people who get a bonus in success. If they're able to sell the house and it takes them 2 or 3 years to actually get the client, to get the house sold, they don't get that same benefit to actually treat that as a capital gain.
Yeah, we're not trying to change the tax code, meaning upper rate for you and lower rate for somebody else. We want to keep all the rates low. We want to keep the rates where they were. And then there were some additional add-ons like no tax on tips. And those were things that the president specifically ran on.
The president wanted to do the carried interest, too, I think.
I just want you to explain your rationale for why you think that group of people needs to be incentivized to do what they do, meaning people in the private equity and venture capital business who are some of the create some of their own greatest wealth in the country. Why you think you need to incentivize that particular class over, I believe, just about there's no other tax incentive like that in America.
We're not looking to make a change there, and maybe you want to, see their rate go up. We didn't want to see any rates go up.
Okay. That's the answer. They don't want to see any rates go up. The president was talking about that, Leader Scalise.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, not going to happen. All right, Leader Scalise, thank you. Good to have you on this.
Yeah, and most of his priorities are in this bill, and he loves this bill. He loves the things that we're doing because it's going to get real economic growth. It's going to help families who are struggling. By the way, opening up energy production, border security, all that's in this bill, too. Debt ceiling, taking that off the table for 2 years so you don't have to worry about that debt crisis coming. All of those things are in the bill, too.
Are the cuts permanent? Because that's what the Senate Majority Leader John Thune was telling us the Senate's very interested in seeing.
Yes. Those are permanent changes.